welcome to the channel. My name is Crawford and this is Virginia's for Lowriders. We are back in the garage. We are working on the 80s Caprice. We are in the process of body dropping this car and we got about a month left. And as you can see, we got a lot of work to do in that month. Last week we left off with getting the firewall completely welded, completely seam sealed, smooth, and we threw some paint on it and it's looking pretty good. It's probably the most time consuming thing out of this entire project that we needed to do, and we got it knocked out last weekend. I don't have a whole lot of time to work on it this weekend, so I'm going to try and squeeze it into 2 days. It's been a busy week. I was actually on my first podcast. A man reached out to me named Chad Reynolds. He owns Bang Shift Video YouTube channel. He's been in the industry forever. He's a super cool guy. Reached out to me. We had a discussion about an hour and a half with him and his friends, and it was a good time. I'm going to put a link to that in the description of this video so y'all can check it out. But between that, me attempting to clean my garage, which you can sort of see the floor, it's been a busy week. And there's a lot of other stuff going on, but we're back out here. We're going to get something done. We got to get it done quick. Got home. That couch magnet got me. Took me an old people nap. Wore out after work. But I got off the magnet and I'm in the garage. The goal for the weekend is I want to get the bars cut off the bottom that are actually supporting the body during the body drop. I want to cut the front frame horns off because we're going to need to lower those down 3-ish inches. And after all that's done, I want to put wheels on it and I want to set it back on the ground. I need that instant gratification of seeing this thing laid out. My friends are coming over tomorrow. I don't know how much work I'm going to get done, but I need them to come over to help me lift the front end off and on the car while I get the front frame horns welded up. So we got a lot of work to do in a very short amount of time because I don't know how much flying off and doing whatever we're going to be doing and probably end up at the hobby shop spending a bunch of money because that's been the ongoing thing the last couple weeks, and it's a terrible idea, but we're just doing dude stuff, I guess. That's all it is. We're having fun. We still haven't had time to do the filler panels. I'm working on filler panels. I don't know if y'all noticed. It's an ongoing thing. All of my projects, there's like that one little thing that probably only take me like an hour and a half, but for whatever reason I procrastinated on it. Just over and over and over. The Mazda, it was very similar. I didn't do the filler panels on that. Again, it only took me like an hour and a half, but I just kept putting it off. We're going to get to it. It might even be an off-camera thing where I can just hunker down and get it done. But we're going to try and keep the rambling to a minimum, which I say all the time. We're going to let ADD do its thing this time for real, because I should be working on the sheet metal and getting it done, but I really need to see this thing on the ground. I think y'all need to see this thing on the ground. I think that would be like really put a step into my game or my whatever. Let's find some random steel to weld across these guys to keep them square and true so I don't have to mess with that with it cut off. We're going to take the 5-mile-an-hour bumper shock things out. We need to cut these down because they come all the way back to here, inside of here. I don't know if y'all have ever experienced these. These cars were designed, and there was Ford, Chevys, Dodges, a bunch of people did this. This compresses if you got into an accident. This is actually a shock absorber and a common thing, which I have videos on it from like 2 years ago. Common thing to do, at least common for me. I don't know. Drill a hole in it, drain it, because it's just a shock absorber, and then tap that in with a hammer, and it's an instant bumper tuck. And it doesn't require any money or welding. The bumper will stay in place until you get into an accident or something. Usually what I'll do is do that and then throw a tack weld on it. But I never threw the tack weld on there, and it's been like this for years now. So we're going to disassemble this and get this cut. Maybe take the bars off tonight, and maybe we can let it down. That'd be pretty good progress for one night. Or I don't know if we'll let it down. There's a whole lot. It's a shelf right now. But yeah, Just get distracted again. Let's just get to work. Don't forget to subscribe. I didn't say that this time, but don't forget to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. I'm gonna come out here to the front clip to see where the body mounts are gonna lay. So there's the body bolt. So we need to make sure we are not going to cut it shy of, we'll just say 3 inches. We need to come 3 inches back from the body bolt. And what I mean by that, this is where the body bolt mounts. We need to come to the center of that, 3 inches. We need to cut somewhere behind 3 inches from that. I don't think we'll be putting that one back in because it's going to be so short. This, exactly like, I don't know if exactly, it's more of a rudimentary thing. I've never actually taken one off the car. I've always just modified them on the car. So this is going to be a learning experience for both of us. I'm assuming it's just gaskets and oil. You can actually see the hole that I drilled in it. We're going to attempt to cut this open, which I don't know if I want to risk putting it in my chop saw. We'll cut it with the bandsaw, I think. And we'll see what's in here. I know it's a shock absorber because I know that if you actually try to drill them with the oil still in it, it'll just bounce back out. And that was the whole point of this. That was their ideas. If you got into a fender bender, bumper would compress and come back out, and everybody would be cool and go home. That looks like a good spot to cut it. Uh-oh. We lost our depth. Maybe I should throw a tack weld on the other one before we go any further. But it's basically built like a shock. A really, really beefy shock. It's got some plungers. Some gaskets. That's about it. So I'm gonna tack weld this together before we go any further and really mess some stuff up, because the bumper fit the car pretty well before I did this. So this step isn't necessary, but I've found that it does help whenever trying to get everything lined back up to where you know you're not screwing anything up. All I'm doing is welding a random chunk of steel across these two. That way when I cut them both off, they're both in the exact location that they need to be for the bumper to line back up. Even though there's like 2 miles worth of adjustment on this car, we still got to take a precaution. Remember the measurement that I talked about earlier, how far away this body mount is from basically where the edge of that core support stops. If you don't get that right, you're going to have some stuff that's overlapping. It's just not going to work. So we said 3 inches away from the center of that bolt is a good distance from where the sheet metal stops. So that's what we'll go with. Figure out what that is from this mounting thing. That way we'll try and match it up on both sides to be sure. I think we'll make it an even 6 inches from where the bumper mounts. That way there's no confusion. And this cut is pretty important. You try to get it as straight as you can, because you're going to have to stitch it back together. But me moving this down almost 3 inches, it's not going to be the same shape. So what we're going to have to do is probably section these in through here, take out like a little wedge, and then fold them in and try to make it look, again, like we try to get a vague resemblance of factory, but again, it really doesn't matter. Something like that. Looks pretty good. I don't know if y'all have ever noticed, but I really don't like cutting stuff with a grinder if I can help it. So I try to find other ways to go about cutting stuff. This is the most I've ever used a Sawzall on any vehicle. You know, I'm just trying to get used to it. I feel like it's a Sawzall is like a standard mini trucking thing, especially back in the day. Oh, it makes your nose itch so bad. So basically, none of this stuff is sort of even kind of close to level. So you kind of have to pay attention to how it was mounted before while you're moving it down. So just making sure I have an even mark all the way across. It is, or even cut, I should say, all the way across. And it looks pretty good. I made it 2 3/4. So the body drop at the car, I keep saying 3 inches because it's like, it's kind of vague with the body mounts and stuff. It's 2.5 at the front pinch weld, basically. And I'm making it 1/4 inch more here because as you extend that out further and further and further, the car the front end gets lower and lower because it's exaggerated. What I'm doing now is they basically added a 1/4 inch, and that should be plenty enough. This side, before I took the car apart, and I had mentioned it when I was disassembling it, this side had a 1/2 inch of washers probably, and this side maybe a 1/4 inch of washers, so it should be just about exactly where it needs to be. You'd never want to short yourself, so if I was doing this, you wouldn't want to make it 2.5, because you can always shim up, especially with something like this where the bumpers are so universally mounted because these cars were so sloppy from the factory that it almost doesn't matter where I welded on this car. There is, let me grab that bumper mount. For instance, this is an 1.5 inches of adjustment on the bumper, which is pretty crazy. Like I said, these cars were mass-produced, stamped, sloppy. Like, my great-grandma had a 86 LeSabre, which is pretty similar to this. Big body. I think it's also a B body. Same thing. That car had very, very low miles. I'm talking like under 30,000. It was driven to church, and that was it. That car, the gaps weren't perfect. It had never been wrecked. It's never been in an accident or a fender bender or anything like that. These are pretty sloppy cars. I wouldn't say that they're the best when it comes to quality. So we're getting things on this. Like the Mazda is different. Front clip's attached. The front clip holds it in place. You cut it. You weld it where it falls. This is already sloppy from the factory. This car's already been in the accident, judging by the fat stack of washers over here. We're trying to make it better than it was. We're going to lower them evenly. It's already even across. We're going to try and get it straight. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Not with this one. Like, other builds to come, more important. Rat Roddy, previously wrecked. Like I've said before, the rear end of this car has been replaced. If you look at the quarter panels on the inside, they're red. They cut that entire trunk, from what I can tell, trunk area off of another vehicle. She's a little twisted, we'll say that. Now make sure your gaps are right. These are within a 1/16 of each other, I'd say. So we're definitely going to say that's good. This is right. So basically, we need to make sure whatever levelness this is, we match that here, and we start modifying. Basically what I'd like to do here, I want to section this and kind of pinch it down. I'd like to section this and pinch it up. That way, whenever we make our filler pieces, it's not such a drastic just drop off like the inside of the door is. And the reason I want to do that is for the way that things fit. Like, I wish I had pictures of my old body drop square body, or my body dropped old body style, whatever they consider Chevrolets now because they keep adding to that. I'll see if I can dig through pictures and post it. I formed all of this stuff to where the hose laid in the frame rail and everything, again, appeared factory-ish. And that's what we're trying to achieve here. This now is going to be down here, basically. Or, yeah, this is going to be 2 3/4 of an inch lower than it was previously. So there's a chance. It depends on how the radiator sits in here. We're going to have to get a little creative with some modification stuff. But I'm going to make sure that this same levelness, tack weld that on the other side. Actually, I'll probably run a bead on both sides. That way this is secure. That way when my friends show up tomorrow, we can actually set the front end on and see what it looks like. That's what we're going for. I'm going to get this welded, crawl underneath of it, and cut them bars off. I'm probably going to call it for the night because it's already like 12:30.
Box in the way. The hell with you, Christopher.
Yeah, that really.
Watch out for the radiator. You almost got the fucking radiator. The effing radiator, dude. So come up.
I see.
And try not to knock the windshield out.
That would be preferable.
Oh, my bar is in the way.
Your bar is in the way.
Okay, that's cool.
Your bar is in the way.
Hey, your bar's in the way. Wow, with the front end on, it gets really tight.
Everybody wants to buy RC cars instead
I
of
feel like these
garage.
weird ones were in there.
Yeah. Oh, they do. They go up through they go up through here. That's how mine is.
This is like Kevin for the Fairlane.
Sorry.
Pick the Mustang up,
Beep, 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 beep.
and you'd be talking, and then it would just go blank because the cuss words.
Well, if you'd have let me
I
know.
don't care. It makes it more entertaining.
Yeah, we got to go down just a fuzz on the front.
Like him, we're be even, man.
Alright.
Good.
Yeah, I can live with that.
Okay.
So now we want to bring up them frame horns.
So now we need 2 people. This was very complicated.
That's this
last
many.
night was trying to do this with my knee and tack weld it to a hole in the tape measure.
Well, where's the tape measure? Because it's a lot more even than it was when we first started.
Recording, by the way.
Oh,
I got ability of editing.
he tries to sneak me in there.
The editing.
See that?
He doesn't give old man a heads up.
Beep, 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 beep. This is a family show. Okay, inch and a half.
All right, I'm at 1.5 inches now. To the low side, it's not double thickness. I'm 1 inch and 3/8.
That's what I was saying. There's still a 1/2 inch of spacer on this side.
Right.
That's how twisted it is.
But we're both the same height, right?
Now, but look at your gap. Is it off?
A little bit.
Whoa!
Got the green one off.
Gap's not so good now, sir.
All right,
Just a fuzz off.
all right. Can I unplug this? Red.
Okay. That we're locked in. Inch if you dropped it 2.5.
I don't know. So like anytime I've ever done anything, it either matches or it's more by the time you get to the end.
Yeah, but we're 1.5 inches less. That doesn't make sense. You dropped, the body dropped it 2 inches, right?
2.5.
2.5.
Can you hold it with the wrench? Because that's another tackle call.
See if you can turn it without just got it with my fingers to get it started.
Those push button things for this, because this is the highest point.
Okay.
You got a string?
Minus that. Behind Justin,
You just
there's
hit
a yellow
snow.
handle.
You want us to finish the car for you too?
Great.
At least we can do after we tore up the man's yard. Okay?
No, I defat.
Grass flying everywhere,
I would
especially
not.
with big boy truck.
I would not be
God
opposed
damn.
to y'all finishing the car while I went inside and took it back.
Oh.
Sounds great.
Okay, are these metric too? Get us
Yeah,
a
probably. Probably.
baby. Grab the front, Justin. I'm gonna jump in the back. Forward to get away. See what he does.
The old mark.
Okay.
See what she does.
Oh yeah. That's so off, but might actually close
It looks like it'll shut.
You want me to close it?
Yeah, I don't care.
Look at that.
Something's puckering it up right there. Maybe fender adjusted up. Just look at the bottom.
Yeah,
Look at the
This,
bottom.
this fender's got to come up on this side, Chris. My fender joint
Shit, you got
is
half
tight
inch
now.
or better over top of the air cleaner.
I think I'm
That's
still,
the closest thing.
I think I'm still gonna have to run that push button thing that I was talking about, but looks pretty good.
Fender's got to go forward.
Shit,
Fender's going
there's this
out.
much room over top of the air cleaner on the hood.
No
Yeah,
way.
figure out how to pop the hood.
Oh. I thought
The hood release is not hooked up, is what you're saying.
No. You gotta reach up in there.
There you go. Now,
Jesus Christ.
I got it.
Scratching the shit out of this thing.
is he scratching it? God damn, you can't have him. Hey, he's a bad dude.
He is a bad dude.
I mean, he can actually do the work. He ain't just some television guy.
Okay.
Oh shit, Justin.
Where are we gonna
Think thin, man. Think thin.
Get
Where are we
skinny like
setting
me.
this
It's not working.
Oh, we gotta get it in that channel. We gotta tip it up. Well, after all of those clips that y'all just saw of Justin and I and everybody else earlier, which thank y'all everybody again, it was a put the front end on, the hood fits. I was going to record it. James's dad is a very colorful character, and the last time I tried to have him on camera speaking, it was almost the entire thing was bleeped out pretty much. But back and forth. Last night I welded the front clip on like I talked about, 2 3/4 inches. We put everything together. It was too much. And then today, I cut it all off, and when we set it up, everything up while the car is on jack stands, there was enough flexing in the frame or the body or whatever was going on to where an inch fit. We didn't understand it. It made absolutely no sense. So, we need to take it off the jack stands, get the car to settle, lay it out, which looks awesome. I'll show it in a second. Lay it all out and get a feel for how it's actually going to lay. And then cut the front end back off for like the 5th time and get everything lined up and then tack weld it in place. After we're doing all of that, removing, like I've said many times, I'm pretty sure this car has been in an accident. Removing, I think Justin and I pulled, it was either 3/4 of an inch or whatever it was, of shims from underneath the body mounts off. So if you take into account the shims and all of the things, my initial welding it on and doing everything was only off by maybe 1/4 of an inch. After all that's done, the car is now sitting on the ground with fenders on it. We took the hood back off because it was in the way, and we took the front end off like 5 more times after that. But it looks pretty awesome. Of course, nothing's lined up. It's tack welded in the front, but it is like this much away from laying out. There's this weird jog in the factory pinch weld that I have to cut off, and something is causing it to bind, and the driver's side is 1/8 of an inch higher. So all that stuff is technical mumbo jumbo, and probably just a matter of dragging the car down the road until it levels itself out with asphalt. That's kind of what I'm feeling, but it's awesome. It's extremely low. I don't think we pulled a tape measure on it yet, but it is very, very low. The hood fits. The hood fit enough for me to crawl up in here and do this with the air filter, which again is another giant relief, because that was my main thing I was worried about, was the air filter and other things coming in contact. And it doesn't come in contact, so we're good on that. Now it is like, I don't even know, 10:30. I'm gonna call it an early night so I can actually come out here in the morning and get something done. But I'm gonna have Justin help me yank this guy back off. That way tomorrow we can go through and make those front frame horns and get that done. I think getting it off jack stands, figuring out exactly where that needs to be, and accomplishing all of that is a pretty good step in progress. Because after all of that, then I can feel confident in finishing the floor and move on to suspension stuff, because I want to put new brakes and bearings and pads and all of their other things in the front end. But again, we are tucking white wall on all 4 corners, and it looks really, really awesome. I keep opening this door. Stand back and look at it.
Figure I'm between 5'10" and 6 foot.
Yeah,
on
yeah.
7-Eleven we walk into.
Yeah. Depending on which 7-Eleven Justin's catches him running out of the 7-Eleven with a sody,
Monster.
he could potentially be 6'5". So, if you take that in consideration, this car's like half a foot off the ground. That makes sense, right? Pretty awesome. But again, I'm gonna call it early night, and we'll pick this back up in the morning. It's been a long day. I got to see my friends spend a lot of money again today, which is always exciting for everybody. Not Justin today. Again, I don't know what it is with hobby shop stuff, but it's getting carried away, and I gotta stop. I gotta be content with what I got. That's what we'll say. Can't stop looking at it. It's awesome. Definitely worth the time. I've had this car for so long and looked at that ugly taper of a frame. Front end's pointed down a little bit, so the body lines are kind of janky. It'll come up just a hair and get, yeah, you know, I'm rambling. All right, next day, and looking at it again, I was a little off on what I said last night after going back and editing everything. I almost am exactly at my mark that I started out with. I shouldn't have second guessed it, should have figured that something in this 20-foot or 17-foot long car was flexing enough to cause things to act weird. And that's all it was. So, again, double, triple check what y'all are doing. Maybe put it on a flat surface. This is really something that should probably be built on a frame table. I have built a frame table. I have built a frame on my frame table that's in the shed. It's in a future project for something I don't even think we really discussed. There's no way for me to be able to lift this car onto the frame table in my garage. Even though this car is really, really short, it'd probably still touch the ceiling because the frame table is like 2.5 feet tall. But regardless, I'm getting off track here. All of the flexing that this thing did, and all of the cutting and measuring and cutting and welding and all of the things that I did, I almost put the frame rail back where I started. When I was explaining everything, I just second guessed myself yesterday. That's all it was. And it was acting weird because of the flexing. Should have just left it alone, put the car on the ground in the beginning and been done with it. You can see my mark here and where the frame rail is. Again, 1/8 of an inch difference to where we need. And like I had mentioned before, I had a really thick stack of washers. Actually, these are the washers here. Still have whatever this is, 3/4 of an inch of washer, plus there's more over there that I pulled out of it. I left a 1/4 inch of washers in there just in case, since you can't go back down. There's no way to lower it once it's all welded together, unless you like cut a body mount in half or something. So I left a 1/4 inch spacer in there. That way, for future adjustments, if I put all of this back together and get it all welded and it's all done, there's no way for me to lower the frame rail back again. So that allows some shimmage or de-shimming. I don't know. Still a little tired from yesterday. Going inside didn't turn out right, and Justin and I ended up staying up super late for whatever reason. I need to get some things cut and hopefully welded. I have some things I need to do today, so it's not going to be the full day of working. So we're going to get as much done as we can and see how far we get. We need to fill in this gap, which is pretty large right now. Well, what I'm going to start with doing is slicing this here and here and starting to bend this down. By the time you bend this down, it's probably going to be, even though these are flush, with it bent down, it's probably going to be a 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch shy, maybe even more, because it's going to get further away as it bends down. So I'll have to make a filler piece, but I'd like to use as much of this as possible. I don't want to bend this straight down and have like a 45. I want it to be somewhat gradual. So we're going to start by just slicing this and just beating it around, see where we can get. I didn't get everything done that I was planning on getting done this weekend. It was pretty close. Car's on the ground, the bars are cut off, the frame horns have been cut. I didn't get them 100% welded. I need to get the hydraulics working again this week, which is a matter of putting the batteries back in. I cut the switch box wiring because it went through the dash, so I have to come up with a way to make that plug in and whatnot. And then the pumps should be fine again. If I get the pumps working again, I can raise it back up and get a jack underneath of it, because getting a jack under this car yesterday, the clip that I put in, took Justin and I 22 minutes to get the car on the ground. Between like jacking up one side, putting a block, lowering it down, jacking up the other side, putting a smaller block, then back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'd rather not do that. I'd rather be able to just raise the car up. But this is where we're at. It looks a little weird right now. On the bottom, because I don't want to lose all of the height of the frame, the bottom I'm going to bring this to here rather than cutting this and just having this weird little pinched thing. But looking pretty good so far. It definitely looks strange right now. But I'd like to work on this to where I can actually get to it with the car up off the ground. But pretty exciting stuff this weekend. I was in here more than I thought I was going to be. We got more done. Not that I wanted, but we got a lot done. Getting the car on the ground was huge. And it is incredibly low. Like, I measured it. This is 2 inches lower than my body drop Mazda. Pretty cool. But I got some stuff to do. I'm gonna see y'all next weekend. I appreciate y'all watching. Appreciate it if y'all subscribed. We're trucking right along. We're almost at 4,100 subscribers now. It's awesome. I appreciate all of y'all, and I'll see you next Sunday.